Chosen one. Stop what you're doing right now and listen. Heaven has interrupted your day on purpose. This is not a coincidence. This moment was designed before time began. And somehow, amidst millions of hearts, the divine spotlight has fallen on you. You have felt it, haven't you? That strange stirring in your chest, that quiet unease that no distraction can bury. It is heaven's whisper breaking through the noise of your world, saying, "Pay attention. I am speaking to you." You have walked through storms and silence, victories and valleys. But lately, something has shifted. You can sense that the peace around you feels thinner, almost trembling. It is because heaven is not pleased, not in the sense of condemnation, but in divine heartbreak. God has been patient with this generation, patient with your delay, patient with the places you have drifted. But now, His Spirit is moving differently. The Father is not whispering comfort. He is raising His voice, calling His chosen ones back to alignment before it's too late. You may think this is just another message, but no. Heaven has pressed pause on everything around you. You are being summoned. There is a reason your spirit feels heavy when you compromise. A reason your heart feels distant when you choose convenience over conviction. That heaviness is not guilt. It is God's love, refusing to let you go. You were not designed for ordinary obedience. You were chosen for radical surrender. Listen carefully, for this is the hour of awakening. You've been walking the edge of obedience, close enough to feel safe, but far enough to avoid surrender. But heaven is no longer waiting for half-hearts. The time of wavering is over. It is written in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 6, verse 10. "To whom can I speak and give warning? Who will listen to me? Their ears are closed, so they cannot hear. The word of the Lord is offensive to them. They find no pleasure in it." That verse is not history, it's a mirror. You stand at that same crossroads now. On one side is your comfort, your excuses, your control. On the other side is your calling, your purity, your crown. And heaven is saying, choose. This is not about perfection, it is about posture. Your destiny will not unfold while you bow to both the altar of the world and the throne of heaven. God is not angry without reason. He is upset because you are settling for less than what He created you to carry. You are meant to walk in light so bright that darkness trembles when you rise. But lately, that light has flickered, not because it's gone, but because compromise has covered it with shadows. Heaven is sending this word not to condemn you, but to reawaken you. Every storm you've faced, the confusion, the silence, the inner chaos, has not been random. It's been God shaking what cannot remain. When heaven goes quiet, it's not rejection, it's a divine pause, a warning that something needs to shift. So listen. Chosen one, don't ignore this moment. Heaven has set this message like a divine alarm clock in your spirit. It's time to wake up. There is a spiritual shaking happening across the earth. And those who hear the warning are the ones who will rise above the storm. You've said, "I'll do it tomorrow." And you've said, "God knows my heart." And yes, He does. That's exactly why He's speaking now. Because your heart was not created for delay, it was made for obedience. God's upset not because you're failing, but because you keep ignoring the conviction meant to rescue you. Don't confuse His patience with permission. The doors of grace are still open, but heaven will not beg forever. Mercy is knocking now. But one day, silence will follow. Don't let that day find you asleep. Right here, right now. If your heart feels this word burning inside, let it not just pass through your ears, let it pierce your spirit. Stand up from your distractions. Lift your head and declare in your heart, I hear you. Lord, I will not ignore you. If this message resonates, if you know heaven has interrupted your scrolling for a reason, don't hide in silence. Like this message, share it with someone who's drifting, and write in the comments, 777. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, not for numbers, but to stay connected to divine alignment. The flow of heaven doesn't move through random chance. It flows through readiness, through chosen vessels like you. Don't let this fire fade. Stay under the covering. Stay within the sound of heaven's heartbeat. You have just stepped into a moment that will echo in eternity. Heaven is watching how you respond. Don't make the mistake to ignore this. This is not just another video, it's your wake-up call. The air feels different tonight. It's heavier, sharper, almost alive, with something unseen. You can sense it the way your spirit feels uneasy when everything seems quiet. It's not anxiety, it's awareness. Heaven is stirring. And the peace that once wrapped around you feels distant because something sacred has been violated. God's heart is heavy, and his silence is not absence, it's grief. When God becomes upset, it's not because he desires destruction, but because he sees how far his children have drifted from truth. His anger is not like human rage, it's the burning ache of a father watching his creation destroy itself. For too long, people have mistaken his patience for indifference, but now his spirit is moving through the earth, awakening those who still have ears to hear. And you, chosen one, are one of them. You have felt it deep inside, the warning that comes not through thunder or lightning, but through conviction. It visits you in quiet moments, when your soul feels restless, though everything around you appears fine. That restlessness is heaven's message. Something must change. God is not speaking to punish you. He is speaking because time is running out for this generation to respond. The Father has watched countless hearts grow cold. He has seen people call his name, but ignore his commands. He has seen worship without surrender, praise without purity, words without truth. The heavens have recorded every moment when the Spirit whispered, "Turn back," and humanity chose distraction instead. Every ignored nudge adds to the weight of divine sorrow. Every act of rebellion echoes in eternity. Yet still, God waits. His anger is real, but so is his love. That's what makes his wrath so painful. It comes from love rejected. His heart is like a river dammed by disobedience, overflowing with emotion that cannot stay contained. The same power that could destroy is held back by mercy. But even mercy has a limit. When God's grief reaches its peak, the shaking begins. And we are already seeing the tremors. You can feel it in the chaos of the world, in the confusion that replaces truth, in the noise that drowns out conviction. The systems of men are trembling because heaven is withdrawing its peace from the disobedient. What was once stable now feels fragile. What once seemed secure is suddenly uncertain. This is not coincidence. It's the stirring of divine anger against a world that has traded holiness for entertainment, obedience for comfort. You, chosen one, stand in the middle of this spiritual storm. You can no longer afford to live as though heaven's warnings are optional. God is calling you to see through his eyes, to feel the pain he feels when humanity mocks what is sacred. He sees his children arguing over idols, chasing validation, worshipping the creation rather than the Creator. He watches them ignore the very voice that holds their breath. How could his heart not burn with sorrow? The earth itself seems to cry out. You can see it in the storms, in the shaking of nations, in the division of hearts. It is not random, it is reflection. The world mirrors the unrest within the human soul, disconnected, drifting, desperate for meaning. And still, the voice of the Lord whispers above the chaos, "Return to me." This is the sound of divine anger mixed with mercy. It's not the roar of hatred, it's the cry of longing. God is upset because he loves too deeply to remain silent while his children walk into darkness. His silence is his last warning. His grief, the proof that he still cares. If he were indifferent, he would have already withdrawn. But the very fact that you feel convicted means heaven hasn't turned away yet. The voice of God declared in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 18, verse 32, "For I take no pleasure in the death of anyone, declares the sovereign Lord. Repent and live." There it is, the heart of God unveiled. His anger is not meant to destroy you, it's meant to deliver you. The fire that burns in his voice is the same fire that can purify your heart if you let it. So, as this world trembles, remember, God's upset because his people have forgotten his face. But for those who still hear, for those whose hearts still break when he speaks, there is hope. You have been chosen not to fear his wrath, but to understand his pain, and through that understanding, to return fully to his presence. Heaven is not done with you. The shaking you feel is proof that you still matter to him. You can sense it now, the weight that lingers in the air after heaven speaks. It's not fear, it's realization. God has been trying to reach you, not through noise, but through stillness. Every unanswered prayer, every delayed blessing, every closed door wasn't punishment, it was a message. Heaven was waiting for your attention. When God grows silent, it's rarely because he's distant. Often, it's because his voice has been drowned out by everything else you've allowed in. The notifications, the noise, the endless scrolling, they've become the static between you and his presence. But even now, his spirit presses through that noise, whispering to your heart, "Return. I am not done with you yet." There comes a point in every chosen one's journey where delay is no longer a test, it becomes a warning. You've lingered at the edge of obedience long enough. The gentle pull of conviction that used to stir your heart is now a trembling in your soul because heaven knows your potential. You were never designed to live halfway between surrender and rebellion. There's a reason you've felt uneasy. Even when things seem to go well, the world may applaud your appearance, but heaven measures your alignment. God doesn't want your performance, he wants your posture. And lately, that posture has been leaning too far toward comfort. He's been speaking in subtle ways in the nights you couldn't sleep, in the moments when silence felt heavy, in the times you felt a tear rise for no reason at all. Those weren't random emotions, they were spiritual signals. The same spirit that once hovered over the waters is hovering over your heart now, waiting for a response. It was proclaimed in the writings of the prophet Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6, "My people are destroyed from lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I also reject you," as my priests. Now, this is not about intelligence, it's about awareness. The lack of knowledge here means the lack of spiritual sensitivity, the blindness that comes when hearts stop listening. The Lord is upset because his people have become numb. They still sing, still pray, still quote scripture, but without surrender. And that, chosen one, is the danger heaven is warning you about. God is not calling you to louder worship. He's calling you to deeper obedience. It's not about saying the right things, it's about doing the right thing when no one's watching. The secret battles you've been fighting, the ones nobody knows about, are where your destiny is being decided. You don't need applause to be anointed. You need alignment. The Lord is saying, return to the place where you first felt me, before the noise, before the fame, before the fear. His anger is not against you, it's against the deception that's been pulling you away from him. The enemy has tried to convince you that it's too late, that you've drifted too far. But if that were true, you wouldn't still feel conviction right now. The very fact that your heart still feels heavy is proof that heaven hasn't let you go. The Spirit of God is hovering near, waiting for your agreement. It doesn't take grand gestures or long prayers. It takes a heart that whispers, I'm listening again. No. Type these two simple words in the comments right now. I'm listening. No. When you write it, you're not just typing, you're responding. Those words become a bridge between heaven and your heart. They tell God, I'm no longer running. I'm ready to hear you again. Every public declaration invites divine attention. When you type, I'm listening, it's not for anyone else to see. It's your covenant in the open, your sign that your ears are open once more. Heaven takes notice of humble responses, and this small act becomes your first step back into alignment. Don't let this moment pass like so many before it. Every time you postpone obedience, the fire cools a little more. Every time you silence conviction, your spirit grows quieter. But tonight, the flame is rekindling. The voice of God that once felt distant is coming near again, not in thunder, but in a whisper powerful enough to break chains. There is still time to respond, still grace to change, still mercy waiting at your doorstep. But the window is not endless. Heaven's patience is deep, but it is not without limit. The same God who speaks in love also acts in justice, and justice always follows ignored mercy. So, chosen one, lift your eyes. Don't let guilt bury you. Let conviction lift you. The same fire that exposes also refines. You are being called out not to shame you, but to shape you. The shaking in your soul is not punishment, it's preparation. God's upset heart is the sound of heaven rearranging your destiny. The night feels heavier than usual. You can sense it, even when everything seems still, the quiet hum of spiritual unrest that moves beneath the surface of your day. It's not fear. Not exactly. It's awareness. A holy discomfort. It's what happens when God is watching, waiting, and your spirit begins to feel the weight of his gaze. Heaven is not distant. It is observing. There are moments when God's silence speaks louder than thunder. Those are the moments when he lets you feel the gravity of your choices. The world tells you to follow your heart, but heaven whispers, your heart must follow me, because not every open door is from God, and not every delay is from the devil. Sometimes the delay is mercy in disguise, God holding you back from walking into destruction. You see, Divine anger is never random. It's holy. It's the reaction of perfect love meeting stubborn rebellion. God's anger doesn't flare like human emotion. It flows like justice that has been patient for too long. Every time a lie is celebrated as truth, every time purity is mocked, every time hearts turn cold, heaven feels it. The grief of God is the ache of love rejected, and the shaking of the earth is his response to it. There's a reason the atmosphere around you feels unsettled. The Spirit of God is moving through the nations, confronting what's been hidden, exposing what's been tolerated. The same hand that once blessed is now stirring the ground, not to destroy it, but to awaken it. You are part of that awakening. God's upset heart is not about rage, it's about restoration. But before he can restore, he must reveal what's been ignored. You've seen it in your own life, the situations that seemed to collapse without warning, the friendships that suddenly ended, the opportunities that dried up overnight. You called it loss, but heaven called it protection. The shaking came not to ruin you, but to rescue you. Because when God sees his chosen ones walking into compromise, his love refuses to stay silent. He removes what you were never meant to depend on so that your eyes can lift again toward him. It's not easy when he begins to strip away your idols. The process feels cruel, but it's mercy in motion. Every disappointment becomes a door back to his presence. Every heartbreak becomes a lesson in surrender. Heaven is not punishing you, it's preparing you. But that preparation comes with pressure. The prophet Isaiah once saw what it meant for God's holiness to collide with human disobedience. The temple shook. Smoke filled the air. And the prophet cried out, "Woe to me, I am ruined." That was not fear, it was awakening. The realization that even in our best state, we are unworthy without grace. You, too, have felt that trembling, the awareness that your strength, your wisdom, your plans are not enough. That trembling is sacred. It's how heaven repositions the chosen. God's anger is not simply a reaction to sin, it's a reminder of his ownership. He made this world. He formed your breath. He wrote your story. And when he sees that creation drifting toward destruction, intervenes. His wrath is a barrier, not a weapon. It keeps you from the cliff's edge. It pulls you back before blindness takes over. According to the writings of the prophet Amos, chapter 8, verse 11, "The days are coming, declares the sovereign Lord, when I will send a famine through the land, not a famine of food or a thirst for water, but a famine of hearing the words of the Lord." End 4. That famine is already here. So many speak, yet so few hear. So many preach, yet so few obey. The noise of the world has drowned out the voice of truth, and heaven is beginning to withdraw what it once freely poured out, not to abandon, but to awaken, because only hunger can make a heart seek again. And that's why your spirit feels what it feels right now. It's the awareness of what others no longer sense. You're not crazy for feeling the heaviness. You're sensitive to the silence of God, and that sensitivity is your calling card. It means heaven still trusts you to hear. So, when the days feel dry, when the silence seems long, remember this: God's silence is still speaking. His anger is not rejection, it's the sound of heaven rearranging your path so that you can walk back into alignment before the famine becomes permanent. There comes a moment, chosen one, When the noise fades and you begin to realize that heaven has been speaking to you through everything, through silence, through storms, through loss, through love. You've been walking through a sacred classroom disguised as your own life. Every tear was a teacher. Every closed door was a redirection. Every delay was divine protection. You may not see it yet, but nothing has been wasted. Even the pain you thought broke you was shaping you. God does not waste broken pieces. He rebuilds them into altars. You've been through enough to know that comfort never changed anyone. Only confrontation does. And right now, heaven is confronting your heart not to wound you, but to remind you that you are still chosen. The days of casual faith are over. You can no longer live halfway between conviction and convenience. God's Spirit is calling you into deeper waters, where faith isn't theory, it's breath. He is saying, step away from the shallow shore and trust me again. It's in the deep that miracles happen. It's in the deep that voices quiet and presence becomes real. The prophet Isaiah cried out in his vision. Chapter 6, verse 5. Woe to me, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. When that moment of awe, the realization that God's holiness is overwhelming, is where transformation begins. When Isaiah saw how small he was compared to God's glory, he didn't hide, he surrendered. And that surrender unlocked his assignment. The same is true for you. Heaven cannot release your next season until you release your resistance. So, take a deep breath. Let the walls around your heart soften again. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. The silence wasn't abandonment, it was training. The fire wasn't wrath, it was refinement. God has been reshaping you to carry more light, more love, more wisdom than before. And now, He's inviting you to grow alongside this message. If what you've heard here has spoken to your spirit, if it has reminded you that you are seen and not forgotten, then stay connected. Tap the like button as if you're placing a stone of remembrance, marking this moment when heaven spoke to you. Share this message like a lantern passed from one traveler to another in a dark forest, so that someone else may find their way home. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, not as a number on a list, but as a heartbeat in a growing family of light. This space isn't built on fame, it's built on faith. Every subscriber becomes a flame that keeps the altar burning when the world grows cold. Now listen closely. Every message shared here is poured like oil time. Prayer and love blended together to reach the weary. If you ever feel led to donate, let it flow like a drop of oil added to a lamp. No demand, no dip, only devotion. When you pour out in love, you're not paying for words, you're helping light reach one more soul. A seed never begs, it simply waits for willing hands. When you give, you're not meeting a need, you're joining a mission. You become part of the echo that carries this message to hearts that have forgotten how to listen. Heaven counts every small act of generosity as worship. Like, share, subscribe, give. Each is just another way to say, I believe this light should not go out. None of it is required, all of it is sacred. The storms of this world will keep coming, but those who stand together will never be shaken. You are part of something holy, a remnant of listeners who still care about heaven's heartbeat. Every gesture, every prayer, every seed keeps that rhythm alive. Let this moment remind you, God's anger may shake the earth, but his mercy still builds bridges. And as you choose to build with him, you'll find that giving light away never leaves you empty. It only makes you shine brighter. You were never meant to walk in silence. You were meant to echo heaven. Every time you share truth, you remind darkness it cannot win. You are proof that obedience still burns brighter than fear. The same hands that once trembled under shame are now anointed to rebuild. What broke you has become your foundation, and heaven smiles because you chose surrender over pride. Sorrise again. Light bearer, carry this fire into every room you enter. Let your peace preach louder than words, and your presence remind others that God still speaks through the willing. You've started to feel it, haven't you? The stillness before change, the quiet that hums with divine warning. It's not fear that you sense, it's preparation. Heaven is moving again. And this time, the shaking is personal. The same God who whispered in secret is now knocking loudly at the door of your conscience. The earth is shifting because heaven is searching for those who will listen, for those who still care about truth, for those who have not drowned in the noise. The world calls this pressure. Heaven calls it awakening. What you feel pressing on your chest is not anxiety, it's destiny trying to take shape. You can't keep living like you don't know what's happening in your spirit. You've seen too much, felt too much, heard too much. The veil between heaven and earth has grown thin, and you stand in that space where light meets accountability. God is not scolding you, he's separating you. He's pulling you out from the crowds that chase feelings but flee from obedience. You may have wondered why people drifted away, why doors closed, why opportunities you once prayed for suddenly vanished. It's because heaven is narrowing your path. When you are chosen, even rejection becomes divine protection. Not everyone can walk with you into the next chapter. God is reducing your circle so he can increase your clarity. You see, when heaven grows quiet, it's never out of neglect, it's strategy. The silence forces you to remember what you already know. God doesn't always repeat himself. Sometimes he waits for you to act on the last word he gave. In the sacred writings of Zechariah, chapter 7, verse 13, when I called, they did not listen. So when they called, I would not listen, says the Lord Almighty. End quote. That verse is a mirror for this moment. God is not speaking to frighten you. He's showing you what silence costs. If you delay too long, conviction turns to confusion, and what once felt clear becomes distant. The heart that ignores warning slowly becomes comfortable in darkness, but not you, not anymore. Your heart still feels that pull because heaven has not given up on you. You are part of the remnant that still hears. You can sense when something is off, even if you can't explain it. That sensitivity is your proof that you still belong to the light. There's a reason you feel things others don't. You're not overly emotional, you're spiritually tuned. You pick up the vibrations of heaven's grief, the rhythm of divine urgency. It's not meant to burden you, it's meant to position you. God trusts you enough to feel what he feels. He's calling you back not to religion, but to relationship, not to routine, but to revelation. The world around you is obsessed with appearance, but heaven is searching for depth. Your calling isn't to perform, it's to perceive. And perception is born in stillness. In that place where tears meet truth. You have to decide now if you'll answer while grace still speaks. Every whisper you felt, Every message that stirred your soul, they're all threads in the same divine pattern. God is weaving you back into alignment, but He needs your yes. End of. You've been running on empty for too long, trying to fill your heart with distractions that fade. But the emptiness you feel isn't failure. It's space being cleared for glory. Heaven doesn't pour new oil into old vessels. The cracks you've tried to hide are the places where His light wants to shine through. Right now, as you read this, you can feel that familiar pull in your spirit. That's not emotion, it's evidence. Heaven is reaching again. God is saying, don't harden your heart this time. Don't turn away again. Oh, if this message finds you where words usually can't reach, that's your sign. This is your intersection of choice. Heaven has paused everything just to see your response. Write this number in the comments, 888. It's not superstition, it's a sign of surrender. A declaration that you are stepping into new beginnings. When you write it, you're not just typing digits, you're saying to heaven, I am listening, I am ready. Numbers fade. But, intention, remains éternel. Let that small act be your way of planting a flag in the spirit, claiming your place among those who respond when God speaks. You're not too late. You haven't missed your moment. The fact that you're still here means mercy still stands. Heaven has not closed its book. On you it's waiting to turn the next page. But only obedience can open it. The world may move on, but heaven doesn't forget hearts that respond. Write the number. Whisper your yes. And remember, God's upset heart isn't rejection. It's the echo of love too fierce to stay silent. There are moments when heaven withdraws, not to abandon, but to reveal. The absence you feel is not punishment. It is invitation. It's the Father stepping back so you can see what your heart truly leans on when His voice seems still. For some, that silence feels unbearable. For others, it becomes sacred. The difference lies in whether you chase noise or learn to rest in the quiet. When heaven pulls away, every false comfort begins to tremble. The friendships that were built on convenience fade. The distractions that once filled your time lose their color. Even your achievements start to feel hollow, because without His presence, everything loses its pulse. You were never designed to survive without the breath of His Spirit. When God steps back, He isn't taking away your peace. He's reminding you who your peace comes from. There's something holy about emptiness when you allow it to teach you. The space left behind by God's silence becomes the soil where surrender grows. It's there that your prayers become honest again, not polished, not poetic, just raw and real. You stop performing faith and start practicing it. God knows exactly how to reach you. When words no longer move you, He allows life to speak louder. The unanswered questions, the unhealed wounds, the quiet nights. These are the lessons written in invisible ink. They remind you that faith is not proven in noise but in endurance. We find in the Lamentations of Jeremiah, chapter 3, verse 28, "Let him sit alone in silence, for the Lord has laid it on him." That verse isn't a curse, it's a key. It unlocks understanding for every chosen soul who's wondered why heaven went quiet. God lets you sit alone because He knows what isolation does. It breaks illusions. It dismantles idols you didn't even know you had. In the quiet, bride unravels. Fear is exposed, and dependence becomes truth. Sometimes the most divine sound you'll ever hear is the silence that forces you to remember your last instruction. Heaven doesn't always need to shout. Sometimes it whispers once and waits forever to see if you'll respond. Many ignore that stillness because they mistake peace for absence. But the mature heart knows silence is never empty. It's loaded with unseen movement. When heaven steps back, the enemy tries to rush in. He uses the silence to plant lies. You've been forgotten. Your prayers don't matter. God's done with you. But the truth is the opposite. The silence is proof of intimacy. God doesn't distance himself from strangers. He tests those he trusts. He's allowing you to grow roots, to learn how to walk by faith and not by sight. Do you remember when a parent lets a child take their first steps? They step back, not to leave, but to empower. That's exactly what God is doing now. His quietness is not withdrawal, it's trust. He believes in what he's placed in you. He knows you've heard enough truth to stand, even when you can't feel him holding your hand. The darkness of this season is not death, it's depth. You are learning what real faith sounds like, steady breathing in the dark, not loud declarations in the light. You are learning that faith isn't the absence of questions, but the presence of endurance. And in this stillness, something incredible is happening. Your roots are growing deep. You may not see it, but heaven sees every silent act of faith, every tear you've cried without telling anyone. Each one is a seed. When the time is right, light will return, and everything you learned in the dark will bloom in ways that astonish even you. The presence of God doesn't always announce itself with thunder or glory. Sometimes it's the quiet reminder that you're still breathing, still standing, still believing. And that's enough. Because when heaven finally speaks again, it will not sound like correction, it will sound like reward. Until then, let the silence do its holy work. Don't fight it. Don't rush it. Rest in it. What feels like distance is actually design. Heaven hasn't left you. It's teaching you to recognize its voice in ways you never could before. In the quiet, heaven rebuilds you. Every unanswered prayer becomes a brick of strength. Every sigh, a song of trust. The silence isn't empty. It's the sound of roots taking hold. You are learning to see with faith instead of sight. Even in stillness, God is near, shaping you through every moment you thought he was gone. When light returns, you will understand what felt like loss was preparation, and what felt like distance was love teaching you how to stand alone with heaven. There is a danger more subtle than rebellion, and it hides in comfort. When the noise fades and you begin to feel stable again, that's when the enemy whispers, "You're fine now. You don't need to change." This is the deception of false peace, the illusion that everything is right when your spirit is quietly drifting away. It is the calm before collapse, the stillness that comes not from God's presence, but from distance mistaken as safety. The greatest trap for the chosen is not failure, it is comfort. Failure reminds you of your need for God, but comfort convinces you that you can live without him. It tells you that you've done enough, that you've given enough, that you've already arrived. But heaven knows otherwise. When your spirit stops reaching, your light begins to dim, and in that dimness, darkness feels familiar again. The enemy's goal has never been to destroy you quickly, it's to dull you slowly. He doesn't need you to renounce God, he just wants you distracted enough to stop hearing him. Distraction is the slow death of destiny. It's the silent suffocation of your calling, wrapped in the illusion of peace. as the voice of God thundered through the words of Habakkuk. Chapter 2, verse 3. For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. No, this verse carries the heartbeat of heaven's patience. It's a reminder that just because the promise takes time doesn't mean it's gone. But if you grow too comfortable while waiting, you stop preparing for what's coming. You forget that revelation doesn't arrive where there's complacency. It visits hearts still burning. God's upset heart in this hour is not about rebellion in the world. It's about indifference in His people. The cry from heaven is not, "They hate me," but, "They've forgotten me," the Creator of the universe, whose breath gives life to every being, watches as His creation runs in circles, chasing shadows. They pray for blessings, but not for alignment. They seek His hand, but not His face. This generation knows how to quote His word, but has forgotten how to wait for His presence. That is why heaven feels distant. It's not absence. It's distance caused by divided hearts. And yet, the mercy of God still lingers. He doesn't withdraw forever. He waits for hearts that ache again. You may have felt that ache recently, that strange heaviness when everything in life looks fine, but your spirit feels hollow. That's not depression. It's divine discontent. It's heaven's way of saying, there's more. You weren't created to live on spiritual leftovers. The peace you crave can't come from comfort. It comes from communion. Every time you chase worldly calm, you silence the hunger that keeps you alive. That's why God sometimes stirs discomfort even in your victories. He won't let success become your idol. He won't let comfort replace calling. The blessing you asked for was never meant to be your resting place. It was meant to be your launching pad. You've been sensing that stirring again, haven't you? The gentle pull that says, "Don't settle here." That's not anxiety. That's heaven's reminder that you are not finished yet. The same spirit that called you out of darkness refuses to let you rest in mediocrity. When God disrupts your peace, it's because He's protecting your purpose. He would rather upset you than lose you. And sometimes His love feels like shaking because He knows what's at stake. You may feel torn between stillness and movement, between rest and action. That's normal. The chosen often live in divine tension, resting in God while still moving toward what's next. Don't mistake that tension for trouble. It's training. It's the sign that you're still alive in the Spirit. Let your heart stay awake. When comfort comes, don't let it cradle you to sleep. When success comes, don't let it silence your hunger. When peace comes, make sure it's the kind that flows from obedience, not the kind that hides disconnection. Heaven is watching, not just your actions, but your temperature, your fire, your focus, your faith. The deception of comfort is to make you lukewarm enough to blend in when you were born to burn bright. So stay alert. Chosen one, the days ahead will test what your peace is built on. Let it not be built on feeling, but on faith. Let it not be found in ease, but in endurance. Because real peace isn't the absence of struggle, it's the presence of God in the middle of it. You can feel it again, the gentle pressure in your spirit that refuses to fade. Heaven has been trying to get your attention, not through chaos this time, but through conviction. It's not a loud voice, it's a quiet pull that keeps returning, no matter how much you try to ignore it. You wake up thinking about it. You lie down, sensing it. That's not coincidence. That's calling. God has a way of echoing truth until your heart finally responds. He speaks through patterns, through repetition, through everything you thought was random. The feeling that something must change, that's heaven knocking again. You may not hear thunder, but your heart trembles, because deep down, you know, He's near. You've been wrestling with this, trying to balance what you want with what you know God is asking of you. But the truth is, you can't serve two masters. You can't keep one hand in the world and one in His presence. Heaven's upset heart doesn't come from rejection. It comes from watching you drift while pretending to stand still. This is not judgment. It's invitation. Conviction is a gift, not a curse. When you still feel the sting of it, it means you're not lost. The danger is not in feeling convicted. The danger is in no longer feeling anything at all. The psalmist David once wrote under divine inspiration, chapter 51, verse 10, "Create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me." That prayer is not for the fallen, only it's for the chosen. David didn't ask for a new crown, he asked for a new heart. He knew that the real battle isn't outside, it's within. And right now, that same prayer is hovering over you. God's Spirit is saying, I don't need your perfection, I need your permission. He's not asking you to fix everything overnight. He's asking you to open the door again, to let Him cleanse what comfort has covered, to let Him rebuild what compromise has cracked. There's a weight that conviction carries. It's heavy, but it heals. It breaks pride, but it builds purity. It doesn't crush you, it cleanses you. Every tear you've cried in secret was noticed. Every time you whispered, I don't know how to change, heaven answered. You don't have to do it alone. And maybe you've been afraid that you've disappointed God too deeply. But listen, the one who chose you already knew your weakness before He called you. Grace was written into your story before failure ever showed up. That's why the voice of conviction feels like both fire and mercy. It burns. But it also beckons. You can't run forever. The world will never fill what only heaven can heal. The noise will keep getting louder until you choose silence before God again. And when you do, you'll find He never left. He was waiting right where you dropped your obedience. Conviction isn't proof that God is done with you. It's proof that He's not. It's the signal that your spirit still belongs to Him, even if your steps wandered. Don't let shame silence what repentance can restore. You don't have to earn His love. You only have to return to it. If this message resonates, if something in you knows it's time to stop running, do something simple but powerful. Write this in the comments. I surrender. Say it not as weakness, but as wisdom. When you write it, heaven takes notice. You're not typing for the world to see. You're aligning your heart with truth. I surrender. 3 short words that can shift an entire future. They declare, I'm done fighting conviction. I'm ready for correction. 1. Every act of surrender invites strength. Every admission of weakness opens a door for grace. This is how heaven heals, not through force, but through agreement. When you surrender, you don't lose, you realign. The Spirit of God isn't calling you to shame. He's calling you to shape. You are being molded again, refined again, chosen again. The pressure you feel isn't rejection, it's formation. Heaven is rebuilding the vessel so the light can shine through cracks once hidden. So don't resist this moment. Don't numb the feeling. Let conviction do its holy work. The fire that refines is the same fire that will fill you. Say it again softly in your heart as you type it with your hands. I surrender. And watch how peace begins to return where guilt once ruled. You are still chosen. You are still loved. And heaven's upset heart will turn to joy the moment you stop running. There's a quiet moment when conviction gives way to clarity. The fog begins to lift. And for the first time in a long while, you see your journey for what it truly is, a river that has always been guided by unseen hands. Every turn, every delay, every storm has carried purpose. You were never lost. You were being led through the hidden bends of grace. The Spirit of God moves like water, soft yet unstoppable. It finds the lowest places, fills the cracks, and gives life where everything seemed barren. That's what He's been doing in you, carving rivers in dry ground, reshaping you from the inside out. And now, He is calling you not just to receive the flow, but to keep it moving. As Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 8, "Freely you have received, freely give." These words are not about money or duty. They are about movement, about keeping the flow of heaven alive in the earth. What you've been given was never meant to stop with you. Grace that stays still begins to rot. Grace that moves multiplies. Every time you open your heart, heaven breathes through you, and that breath becomes life to someone else. Maybe this message found you on a day when you needed hope, a reminder that you're not too far gone. If so, let it become more than comfort, let it become current. Tap like, not as habit, but as a heartbeat, a ripple that says, yes, I feel this flow. When you share, it's like releasing a dove into a storm. You never know who it will reach, whose heart it will land on, whose faith it will awaken. The smallest act of sharing can be the spark that lights another soul's candle. And when you subscribe, see it as joining a river, not a channel. It's a way of saying, I want to stay near the current. Here, every word poured out is a drop of living water meant to refresh tired hearts. Each subscriber becomes a stream, joining into one great flow of light. Now, about giving. The word donate has been made heavy by the world, but in heaven's language, it's simple, to pour out what was first poured into you. When you give, you're not fueling a brand, you're feeding a flame. Think of it as adding oil to a lamp, so its light reaches one more wandering traveler in the night. Every small act becomes sacred when it carries love. A single seed placed in the ground does not argue, it trusts. In time, it grows into shelter for others. So, when your heart feels moved to donate, let it be like planting a seed in fertile soil, not out of pressure, but out of joy. Because giving isn't losing, it's letting the harvest begin. And even if all you have to offer is prayer or presence, it counts. Some give through hands, others through hearts. Heaven measures none of it by size, but by sincerity. You're not asked to carry the whole flame, only to keep your spark alive. Like, share, subscribe, or give. These are not commands, they're choices. Choices to say, I believe in this light. Choices that turn a message into a movement, a sound into a sanctuary. Every word you've read here has been poured from prayer, shaped by love, carried through countless nights of listening to heaven's heartbeat. This isn't a production, it's a river of grace, and rivers keep flowing only when they're fed. If your spirit has been watered here, Let gratitude become motion in whatever form it takes. Because the beauty of true giving is that it never empties you, it expands you. The same God who pours through you also replenishes you. So as this message settles into your soul, remember, rivers don't cling to their water, they let it run. And light doesn't hoard its glow, it gives it freely. That's what makes the world less dark. You are part of that light. Keep it alive. Keep it flowing. Keep it reaching. Heaven is counting every drop. You are the river and the reflection, carrying heaven's light through earthly waters. Every act of kindness is a ripple that touches shores you may never see. Yet heaven counts them all. Let your giving become worship. Your words become water. Your faith become flow. Every motion made in love echoes far beyond this moment. It reshapes eternity quietly. So breathe, release, and shine. You are not a spectator of grace. You are its vessel. Let every heartbeat remind you you were created to keep the current alive. The shaking has begun. And though the world may call it chaos, heaven calls it cleansing. Everything that could once hide in the dark is now being exposed by divine light. The structures of pride, the systems of deceit, even the thoughts you tried to silence, all are trembling under the weight of truth. This is not destruction, it is purification. What you are feeling is not the end. It's the earth groaning for order. When God allows shaking, it is never random. It is the sound of heaven rearranging what humanity has misplaced. For too long, people have called disorder freedom and compromise wisdom. But God is not mocked. He reclaims what belongs to him. The world is being turned upside down because heaven is setting it right side up again. The shaking starts small inside you. The unease in your spirit. The sudden clarity about things you once tolerated. The strange sense that certain environments no longer fit you. All of that is heaven's fingerprint. You're being redefined, not rejected. God is breaking the mold you outgrew so that you can carry more glory in the days ahead. You may feel like your world is falling apart, but it's actually falling into place. The foundations that can't withstand holiness must crumble so that purity can stand. Don't mistake the collapse for chaos, it's construction. God tears down with precision so he can rebuild with perfection. The prophet Isaiah spoke of such moments in his writings. Chapter 26, verse 9. When your judgments come upon the earth, the people of the world learn righteousness. That verse isn't a threat, it's a promise. When shaking comes, righteousness awakens. When justice moves, clarity returns. The trembling of the world isn't heaven's anger, it's heaven's mercy. Warning before wrath. Correction before collapse. The same thunder that frightens some hearts cleanses others. And if you look closely, you'll see what's happening around you is also happening within you. God doesn't separate his people from his process. He refines them through it. Every disruption in your life has a divine fingerprint. When something breaks, it's often because God is freeing what was never meant to be bound. He removes people, places, and patterns not to punish you, but to preserve you. Sometimes his love looks like loss, because what he's taking away is silently killing your purpose. He's not robbing you, he's rescuing you. Every no from heaven hides a bigger yes that's not ready yet. The shaking hurts because it challenges the illusion of control. You can't fix what God is undoing, and you can't keep what grace has already released. The more you try to hold it together, the louder the breaking becomes. But when you finally let go, the noise turns to peace. Every season of shaking has a purpose. The first is revelation. God shows you what needs to go. The second is separation. He removes it. The third is restoration. He replaces it with what carries your next assignment. You're somewhere in that cycle now. You might still be trembling. But remember, gold doesn't fear fire. It needs it. This is why heaven told you not to fear the storms. The wind may be fierce, but it only removes what wasn't rooted. And when the dust settles, what remains will be unshakable. You are being strengthened for stability, anointed for endurance. Do not despise the process that purifies you. What looks like the breaking of your comfort is actually the birth of your character. The very tremors that unsettled your life are creating space for divine order to emerge. Soon, what felt like loss will glow like preparation. You'll look back and see that the shaking was never about destruction, it was about foundation. God wanted to prove that your faith was real, that it wasn't built on circumstance but on conviction. So, when everything around you quakes, stand firm. Heaven's upset heart is not wrath aimed at you. It's the cry of love determined to save what can still be saved. You're not standing in ruin, you're standing in renewal. The world will tremble, but the remnant will rise. And when the shaking ends, only those rooted in truth will remain standing refined, radiant, and ready. When the shaking quiets, you'll realize you never lost stability. You found it. Everything temporary has fallen away, leaving only what eternity could hold. This is how heaven builds unshakable hearts. Every tremor carved wisdom into your soul. What once felt like breaking became shaping, and what felt like fear became foundation. You now stand where only truth can stand. Lift your eyes. Peace has returned. Not as calm, but as confidence. You have survived the refining. You are no longer fragile. You are forged in divine fire. There are seasons when heaven doesn't whisper anymore. It warns. This is one of them. You can feel it in the air. The heaviness that sits on your chest. The urgency that won't let you rest. It's not anxiety, it's awareness. The Spirit of God is stirring across the earth, calling His chosen ones to wake before the storm fully breaks. Heaven's patience has limits because love has standards. God is not cruel, but He is holy. And when His mercy is mocked, His judgment begins to move. The winds are shifting, and those who walk blindly in comfort will soon realize they were standing in borrowed peace. You, chosen one, are being warned not to fear, but to prepare. There is a shaking coming that won't be seen first in governments or nations, but in hearts. The Spirit is inspecting foundations. What was built on emotion will fall. What was built on truth will stand. God is not judging the world as much as He is separating it. He's dividing those who pretend to hear from those who truly listen. From the ancient wisdom recorded in the book of Proverbs, chapter 1, verse 23, "Repent at my rebuke. Then I will pour out my thoughts to you. I will make known to you my teachings." And that is the cry of heaven right now. Turn while there's time. This isn't anger, it's mercy trying to outrun consequence. God is not looking to destroy, He's looking to deliver. But He cannot pour revelation into hearts that refuse repentance. You can't carry light if you keep protecting your darkness. You've felt this tug before, haven't you? That small voice saying, "Let it go. Step away." Return. You pushed it aside because it felt inconvenient. But now, it returns stronger. That's how mercy works. It keeps circling back until you answer. Heaven will not stop calling until your silence becomes your answer. The world is getting louder, and every distraction is designed to numb you before the shaking begins. But you were not created to sleep through the storm. You were chosen to see it before it arrives. God shows his warnings to those he trusts. That's why you're hearing this message now. It's not coincidence. It's confirmation. There is a new level of spiritual discernment rising in you. You'll start to see through smiles that hide deception, through opportunities that look golden but are actually traps. Heaven is sharpening your vision, not to make you suspicious, but to keep you safe. The time for naive faith is over. Now comes the hour of refined discernment. Du discernement demands obedience. It's not enough to recognize danger. You must respond when heaven says, move. Some doors must be closed permanently. Some connections must be cut quietly. God's warnings aren't suggestions, they are survival instructions. Delay will cost more in this season than disobedience ever did. If you're reading this and your spirit feels unsettled, that's your sign. Heaven's urgency is wrapping around you like a cloak, saying, listen now, align now. You are not being punished, you're being positioned. The same warning that frightens the world fortifies the chosen. Right now, the Spirit is searching for hearts that still tremble at the word, hearts that can feel conviction and call it love, hearts that understand warning isn't rejection, it's invitation. God's upset heart is proof that he still cares enough to speak. The day he stops warning is the day mercy steps back. So don't wait for comfort to return. Wait for clarity to rise. The light is shifting, and heaven is marking those who respond. You are one of them if you choose to hear, to bow, to believe again. Before this message ends, make a small but holy declaration. Write this number in the comments. 444. It's not superstition, it's symbolism. 3 digits representing divine stability, Father, Son, and Spirit, aligning in perfect unity. When you type 444, you're saying, I choose alignment, I choose awareness, I choose to stand firm. It's not for others to notice, it's for heaven to record. Every number written becomes a whisper in the spirit, a signal that you're awake when others are asleep. Heaven doesn't need your perfection, it needs your participation. And when you act in faith, even through something simple, it echoes in eternity. Let this be your moment of agreement. Type the number not out of fear, but out of faith that you still hear. You are part of the remnant who refuses to ignore the warning. You are not afraid of the storm, because you understand it's not coming to destroy you, but to define you. There is a mirror that God places before every chosen one. It is not made of glass, but of truth. When you look into it, you do not see your reflection, you see your reality. It shows you not how others perceive you, but who you truly are when the lights fade, when applause dies, when silence reveals the state of your soul. This mirror is mercy disguised as confrontation. When God reveals your heart, He's not exposing you to humiliate you, He's uncovering you to heal you. There are layers we build to protect our pride titles, talents, even spiritual words. But the mirror of heaven sees beyond all of it. It sees motive. It sees intention. It sees what you hide, even from yourself. You may have prayed for breakthrough. But what if heaven's answer was reflection? Because sometimes, before God can elevate you, He must first let you see what's been standing in your way. Not a demon, not another person. Sometimes, it's the parts of you that refuse to change. There's a painful beauty in divine honesty. It hurts at first because it dismantles illusions. But that pain is sacred. It's the beginning of freedom. The Spirit doesn't reveal to condemn. He reveals to correct. And those who embrace correction walk lighter than those who hide behind justification. The Apostle Paul reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians. Second letter, chapter 13, verse 5. Examine yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. Test yourselves. Do you not realize that Christ Jesus is in you, unless, of course, you fail the test? That scripture isn't about doubt, it's about awareness. God calls you to self-examination, not to shame you, but to strengthen you. The mirror of conviction is a gift. It keeps you from living blind. When you can see yourself clearly, you can finally walk truthfully. For too long, people have mistaken appearance for anointing. They've learned to speak faith without living it, to display holiness without intimacy. But heaven isn't impressed by performance. It responds to purity. The weight of your calling will always demand a heart that's clean, not just a voice that's loud. So, God begins to hold up the mirror. He lets you see the pride you ignored, the resentment you buried, the envy you justified, the unforgiveness you named boundaries. It's uncomfortable. Yes, but necessary. Because what you refuse to confront will eventually control you. Don't despise the mirror. Every time God reveals something, He's giving you a chance to release it. Conviction is the key to transformation, and only those humble enough to look will ever unlock it. It's a frightening thing when God stops showing you yourself. That silence isn't peace, it's distance. So, if He's still revealing, it means He's still reaching. It means He hasn't given up on you yet. The mirror is not rejection, it's relationship. The Lord disciplines those He loves because He refuses to let His reflection in you fade. You may weep when you see what He shows, but even your tears are part of the cleansing. Every drop that falls is heaven washing away what you were never meant to carry. Brokenness isn't a setback, it's surrender. God can fix what you admit is fractured. And when you finally stand before that spiritual mirror and say, "Yes, that's me, and I need help," something divine happens. The reflection changes. You no longer see shame staring back. You see grace taking shape. The same eyes that once showed guilt now reveal growth. This is how the Spirit rebuilds the soul. Honesty becomes healing, and humility becomes armor. Pride falls, but peace rises. The image of who you thought you had to be dissolves, and the true version of you, refined, radiant, real, emerges. Heaven's upset heart isn't anger over your imperfection, it's grief that you hide what He already died to forgive. He's not waiting for perfection, He's waiting for participation, the willingness to be honest enough to heal. When you finally stop defending your flaws and start surrendering them, God breathes again through the spaces pride once filled. Your heart becomes clear, and your purpose becomes pure. So let the mirror do its work. Stand still. Look closely. Don't look away too soon. What feels like confrontation now will become clarity later. And when heaven sees your reflection shining again, It will whisper what it always knew. You were never disqualified, only delayed by denial. When truth meets humility, freedom is born. The mirror no longer frightens you, it frees you. You finally see not failure, but the fingerprints of grace rebuilding you. God's reflection in you grows brighter each day. What once felt like breaking now feels like becoming. The light you carry is no longer borrowed, it's your own. Across the earth, a quiet cry is rising. It's not the sound of crowds, but the sound of hearts returning to God. It is the cry of the remnant, the ones who refused to harden, who kept their lamps burning through the long night of silence. These are the souls heaven calls mine. They are not many, but they are mighty. Their prayers shake foundations unseen. Their faith glows, even when no one applauds. And their obedience carries the weight of generations. You may not realize it, but you are part of them. You've walked through fire, yet your faith survived. You've stood in darkness, yet your spirit never went out. That endurance wasn't weakness, it was evidence. You are the proof that faith can live without fame, that trust can bloom in obscurity, and that light doesn't need an audience to shine. The remnant doesn't seek recognition, they seek resonance alignment with heaven's will. They walk quietly, but carry divine authority. They are ordinary in appearance, but extraordinary in purpose. And while the world builds platforms, they build altars. These are the ones who will rise in times of shaking, because their roots are not in applause but in presence. The Word of God declares in the book of Micah, chapter 5, verse 7, "The remnant of Jacob will be in the midst of many peoples like dew from the Lord, like showers on the grass, which do not wait for anyone or depend on man." Oh, that verse captures the beauty of this moment. Dew doesn't announce its arrival, it simply appears, refreshing the earth quietly. The remnant is like that. They don't chase fame or demand attention. They move silently. But their impact is undeniable. Where they walk, peace follows. Where they pray, things shift. You may have wondered why your journey has been so lonely, why it felt like everyone else moved faster while you seemed to be standing still. It's because heaven wasn't preparing you for the crowd, it was preparing you for the call. Isolation was never rejection, it was refinement. God separated you to strengthen you. While others were chasing visibility, He was giving you vision. While they were gathering followers, you were gathering fire. And now, the world is beginning to tremble. And heaven is revealing those who were hidden on purpose. The unseen ones will become unshakable ones, not by force, but by faith. The remnant carries a strange peace, one that confuses the anxious and calms the fearful. Their eyes are steady because they've seen too much of God's mercy to panic at the sight of man's chaos. They don't react, they respond. They don't retreat, they rise. You can feel that same steadiness forming in you now. The panic that once ruled your heart is being replaced by peace. The fear that once whispered failure is now met with faith that says, "Even this will work for good." That calm is not weakness, it's warfare, the quiet confidence of someone who knows heaven fights beside them. The remnant is not large, but it is loyal. Their strength lies not in numbers, but in nearness to God. They don't just believe in miracles, they become them. They live as living proof that even when nations fall, heaven's hand still holds steady. Look around at the world, everything loud is shaking, but the quiet hearts are standing. The remnant doesn't need to shout to be heard, because heaven amplifies obedience louder than words. The secret place is their strategy, and intimacy is their armor. You've been feeling the pull to go deeper again, haven't you? That's the remnant within you awakening the eternal part of you that refuses to bow to fear. God is rekindling that quiet fire, the one that doesn't burn out when others grow cold. It's the flame of endurance, the same light that guided prophets, apostles, and faithful ones before you. And soon, that remnant will rise not with noise, but with necessity. The world will look for stability, and they will find it in the faithful. While others tremble, the remnant will move with grace. While others complain, they will build. You are part of something ancient and alive, something both fragile and unbreakable. You are part of heaven's answer to a world in chaos. And even when you feel small, remember, the remnant has always been small, but in God's hands, small always multiplies. The storm will come, but it cannot drown what God has preserved. The remnant will stand as proof that even in the final hour, heaven never loses. You, chosen one, are one of them. Quiet, steady, purified, ready to carry light into whatever comes next. Time feels heavier now, doesn't it? You can sense that the clock of heaven is moving differently. The world rushes ahead, but the Spirit slows you down to listen, to feel, to discern, to remember what matters. You've come too far to drift now. The remnant is rising, and heaven is calling the faithful to hold their ground. In moments like these, when confusion fills the air, heaven plants truth like a seed in the soil of the obedient heart. You are that soil. The tears you've cried have watered your purpose. Every heartbreak became a baptism into understanding. You no longer chase what glitters, you wait for what glows. That waiting is sacred. It's the proof that you've learned the rhythm of heaven. In his second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 2, the apostle proclaimed, "Preach the word, be prepared in season and out of season, correct, rebuke and encourage, with great patience and careful instruction." This verse is not only for preachers, it's for every chosen soul that carries light. You may never stand on a stage, but your life itself is the sermon. Every act of kindness, every moment of integrity, every quiet prayer that no one hears, they preach louder than any microphone ever could. So now heaven whispers again, gently but firmly, keep the fire alive. And the way we keep the fire alive is simple. It's through small, sacred acts that ripple far beyond our sight. Every small act becomes eternal when it's done with love. When you like a message like this, think of it not as a click, but as a spark your way of adding one more ember to the flame. Each spark keeps the message from fading into silence. You're saying, I see the light, and I choose to keep it burning. When you share, imagine passing a torch in the dark. Someone you may never meet is waiting for the warmth you carry. Your act of sharing isn't about spreading content, it's about spreading comfort. You become the messenger that brings dawn to someone else's night. When you comment, let it be more than words. Let it be worship, your reflection, your amen, your story. They all weave into the tapestry of this message. Every voice adds color. Every word adds depth. Your comment is not noise, it's the sound of connection. the echo of gratitude that reminds heaven that faith still breathes on earth. And when you subscribe, see it as finding your seat around a fire that never goes out. You're not joining a channel, you're joining a circle of hearts that refuse to let light die in a dark age. Together, we are the embers that will outlast the storm. Now, about giving. The word can sound heavy, but heaven never meant it that way. To donate is to become part of the current that carries light forward. Think of it like a stream feeding a river. It doesn't lose itself when it gives. It becomes something greater. When your heart feels stirred to pour out, it's not an obligation. It's overflow. Love that's too full to stay still always finds a way to move. Your generosity, whether it's prayer, time, or treasure, becomes oil for the lamp. You may never see how far the flame travels, but God does. Every drop counts. Every spark matters. The beauty of giving is that it multiplies silently. What leaves your hand never leaves His sight. And if your heart ever feels stirred to pour a drop of oil on this flame, do it as worship, not weight, as beauty, not burden. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Give, not because you must, but because you can. Each act is a prayer in motion. Each gesture a song of gratitude. This isn't a transaction. It's a communion of hearts who still believe that light belongs to everyone. The world is full of noise, but heaven listens for sincerity. Every time you respond, you prove that sincerity still exists. You prove that the fire hasn't gone out. And one day, when all the words fade and the screens go dark, what will remain is not the post, not the page, but the hearts that were touched, healed, and changed through moments like this. So let your response be simple, genuine, and free. Keep the flame alive in your way, and trust that heaven will carry it farther than you ever could. Because when love moves through willing hands, it always finds a way to reach the forgotten corners of the world. You, chosen one, are part of that beautiful movement, the quiet army of light, giving not out of pressure, but out of purpose. And heaven smiles every time you choose to keep that light alive. There is a peace that follows obedience, a peace that doesn't shout, but settles quietly like dawn after a long night. You can feel it now, can't you? That stillness that sits deeper than emotion, the kind that doesn't depend on circumstances. It's the peace of someone who has chosen surrender over struggle. Heaven calls it the crown of the obedient. Obedience isn't glamorous. It doesn't always come with applause or validation. Often, it comes with silence, misunderstanding, and even loss. But hidden beneath those sacrifices lies something eternal. Every yes you've given to God, even when no one saw it, built a foundation that storms can't shake. Obedience doesn't just please heaven, it anchors you. You have walked through fire and learned that obedience isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Every time you said yes, while your heart trembled, heaven took note. Every time you stayed kind when anger would have been easier, heaven recorded it. Every time you kept believing when evidence ran out, heaven smiled. The path of obedience is narrow, but it's golden. It doesn't glitter on the surface, but it gleams in eternity. There's a fragrance that only obedience releases, the aroma of trust, of faith that refuses to bend under pressure. You may think your sacrifices went unnoticed, but they built altars in unseen realms. As recorded in the chronicles of the early church, the book of Acts, chapter 5, verse 29, Peter and the other apostles replied, "We must obey God rather than human beings." End quote. Those words echo through centuries like a steady drumbeat of faith. They remind you that obedience often isolates before it elevates. To obey God sometimes means walking alone, but never without purpose. The narrow path may feel empty, but it's the only one that leads to fullness. You've seen this in your own life, when you chose integrity over comfort, truth over popularity, stillness over noise. Something inside you strengthened. That was heaven crowning your endurance. Every act of obedience becomes a thread in the garment of glory that God is weaving around your life. The world teaches that freedom is doing whatever you want. Heaven teaches that true freedom is doing whatever He wills. It's not control, it's connection. It's not restriction, it's restoration. When you obey, you don't lose yourself. You find who you were meant to be. Obedience is not a cage, it's a compass. It keeps you aligned when emotions fluctuate, when temptations whisper, when darkness masquerades as light, and each time you follow it, the crown grows brighter. You may not feel its weight now, but heaven is preparing it. Every trial you endured faithfully added another jewel to that unseen reward. You've had moments where obedience cost you relationships, opportunities, and even comfort. But nothing you've lost was greater than what you gained: peace that doesn't waver, purpose that doesn't fade, and strength that doesn't depend on the applause of others. There will always be voices tempting you to take shortcuts, to lower your standards, to blend in where you were born, to stand out. But you already know obedience is never wasted. It builds what shortcuts can never sustain. God's promises are not for the impulsive, they are for the faithful. You've also discovered that obedience doesn't always look spiritual. Sometimes it's simple: choosing to forgive again, choosing to stay silent when wronged, choosing to show grace instead of bitterness. These are the quiet battles that build invisible crowns. Heaven's upset heart doesn't seek perfect servants, it seeks willing ones. Those who obey not for reward but out of love. Those who trust that even if no one sees, God does. And in His timing, He reveals the beauty of every unseen yes. And one day, you'll look back and realize that every hard decision, every surrender, every act of faith was leading you to this peace that can't be stolen, purpose that can't be shaken, and joy that no circumstance can take. The obedient are not the loudest, they are the lightest. They carry no guilt, no weight of pretense. They walk with steady hearts, crowned not with gold, but with grace. And perhaps that's the real reward. Not a crown you wear, but a spirit so free that it shines brighter than any jewel. You've earned that freedom not by striving, but by saying yes again and again when it mattered most. So rest now, not in complacency, but in completion. The journey isn't over, but the lesson is clear. Obedience doesn't cost, it creates. And the crown that heaven places on your life is not forged by fame, but by faith. You have become what obedience always intended: a vessel of peace, a reflection of perseverance, and a carrier of light that cannot be extinguished. That is your crown. When the storm passes and the smoke clears, something extraordinary happens. The air feels new, as if creation itself is exhaling after holding its breath. The battle that once roared around you fades into a quiet, sacred stillness, and in that stillness, you realize the fire didn't destroy you. It defined you. What once burned you now burns within you. This is the mystery of God's process. The same fire that purified your pain now illuminates your path. Every wound that once ached with loss has become a window for light to enter. You no longer hide your scars, you understand them. They aren't marks of weakness, they're testimonies written in flesh. Proof that heaven can turn ashes into anthems. Heaven's anger has turned into glory. The same voice that thundered correction now whispers comfort. The storm was never meant to punish you, it was meant to polish you. Every shaking, every silence, every surrender has carved holiness into your heart. You've become the evidence that God's upset heart was never hatred, it was fierce. Protective love determined to bring you home. Heaven's final word resounds as written in Revelation, chapter 21, verse 5. He who was seated on the throne said, "I am making everything new." Then he said, "Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true." I'm war. You can feel that renewal now. The things that once held you no longer have power. The fears that used to control you have grown silent. You have walked through the valley and found not despair, but destiny. God's upset heart has turned into the rhythm of your restoration. You are no longer who you were when this journey began. You've shed layers of shame and illusion like old skin, and what remains is authenticity, raw, radiant, and ready. The light within you is not borrowed anymore, it's birthed. Heaven didn't just rescue you, it revealed you. You've stepped out of the shadows, not as the same person, but as the one you were always meant to be. You've learned that redemption isn't an event, it's a rhythm. Every breath you take now carries gratitude. Every sunrise looks like mercy. Every step you take echoes grace. You've discovered what the world could never teach, that joy isn't the absence of pain, it's the presence of purpose. Look around. The world may still tremble, but your soul stands steady. You carry calm in chaos, peace in pressure, and praise in pain. That's the mark of the transformed. The same storms that broke others became the winds that lifted you higher. You've become the paradox of heaven, strong yet soft, bold yet humble, fierce yet tender. And as you stand now, you finally understand. The anger of God was never against you, it was for you. His wrath burned not to destroy his child, but to destroy the chains that held his child captive. What looked like fury was actually freedom in disguise. What felt like loss was actually love, refusing to let you stay small. The crown you wear is invisible to the world, but undeniable to heaven. It's not made of metal or jewels. It's woven from moments of surrender, faith, and endurance. It glows not with gold, but with glory, the kind that only those who've wrestled with God and lived can carry. The heavens rejoice when obedience meets grace, when the prodigal returns, not in shame, but in splendor. And that's what you are now, a reflection of restoration, a living story of mercy that outlasted judgment. You have become a torchbearer of truth, a messenger of mercy, a vessel of victory. Everywhere you go, the atmosphere shifts, not because you are loud, but because you are light. You carry the fragrance of someone who has seen both the fire and the Father and understands that both were necessary. There will still be battles ahead, but none will break you the same way. You've already learned the secret, that every trial is an invitation, every test a transformation. Heaven no longer needs to warn you, it now works through you. The world needs your peace now, your voice, your quiet strength, not to preach, but to prove that holiness still heals and that obedience still leads to glory. You are no longer the student, you've become the sign. The storm ended, but the story continues. You walk forward now, not as one who survived, but as one who shines. Heaven's upset heart has turned into radiant joy. And you, yes, you are its masterpiece. And as you walk into tomorrow, remember, you are living proof that mercy outlasts misery. Every heartbeat now echoes heaven's promise. Nothing broken stays broken when touched by divine hands. If this journey has found its way to your heart, let this be more than the end of a story. Let it be the beginning of a spark. What you've just read is not content, it's communion. Every line was a bridge between heaven's whisper and your spirit's yes. The fire you feel right now was never meant to stay contained. It was meant to spread quietly, beautifully, like dawn after darkness. When you like this message, think of it as lighting a small candle in a vast cathedral. One flame may seem small, but together, thousands turn night into day. Each touch of that button is a gentle amen, a silent way of saying, I still believe light wins. When you share, imagine placing a seed into the wind. You don't control where it lands, but heaven does. Somewhere out there, a weary heart waits for what reached you today. Your act of sharing becomes a whisper of hope in someone else's wilderness. When you comment, let your words be part of the river, your thoughts flowing with gratitude. Your reflection, adding another ripple of light. Each sentence you leave behind is a footprint for others to follow toward faith again. When you subscribe, you're not joining a page, you're taking a seat by an ever-burning fire. This space is not built by algorithms, it's built by alignment, by souls who still listen for heaven's heartbeat together. And if your heart ever feels led to donate, do it softly, not out of pressure, but as a way of pouring oil into the flame so it can keep reaching one more soul. Light moves when love moves, and every gentle act you're like, your share, your comment, your gift becomes part of heaven's ongoing story.